You are now about to witness the awesome, sorry for the glare, crushing bite of, wait for it, KNUCKLE! Woo! Oh, passing out. Welcome, my fucking friends, my only fucking friends, to a show that never ends. It's Knuckle Up number 290. I am your host, EUGENE S. Robinson, with the S standing for sour. And we're going to talk about UFC Fight Night 98, a little bit about Bellator 163, and why MMA is the best place to go to watch grown men, ding, 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 die. But first, the song that starts it all off, intro, All of Nothing. Bob Riley, singer for Stigmata, off the record Calling of the Just. You can buy it, Revelation Records do so. But these words say it all. I'm on my way back to nowhere. And I could not see so clear. Taking a real good look at you. I'm taking a real good look at your face. Being paid back in full, always nothing. First of all, let me pause that. Let me explain something to you, my friends, before we get too far deep into 290. There was a piece written for the SF Weekly on me, a cover story on me a few years ago, maybe 10 at this point. Yeah, 2007. So if you type in SF Weekly, EUGENE S. Robinson, it should come up. It was written by Mary Spacuzza, and they interview a bunch of people who've known me, people who work for me, Dean Kuipers, West Coast Bureau Chief of Spin. You know, it's a real profile. And they talked to a sports agent extraordinaire, Section 8 housing guru, Salvatore Russo. And I don't remember his exact quote, but what he said was fundamentally one of the most noteworthy characteristics of EUGENE Robinson is his loyalty. Loyalty, all right? Another friend of mine, Michael C. Duran, who's Undersecretary of Defense of the United States of America under George W. Bush with a special focus on Palestinian affairs, once said, EUGENE, you are like a dog. If somebody is nice to you, you're theirs forever. Conversely, if someone is not nice to you, yeah. I say this as a prelude to an airing of a grievance. I am sitting here right now without a gold medal. IBJJF, you heard me talk about trying to write a letter to get my way in. I was a day late. There was only one guy on my division. He was coming all the way from Phoenix. You don't want that guy just to show up, and I'm helping you. Help me, help me, help you, help me. Well, I go to train on Saturday, and Sorrell says, He says, you know, they contacted me because I did send him a very nice email. So due to family issues, work-related stuff, I was not able to meet the deadline, but I'd very much like to give you some money to compete now. I understand you only have one person in the division. He's coming all the way from Phoenix. It just would be a good thing all around. I've CC'd my coach here. He can vouch for me. He goes, you know, they actually called me. And I go, oh, so you did hear from them? He goes, yeah, I told them you were fucking crazy and to ignore it. I go, you did what? He said, I told him that you were crazy and forget it. He's late with the deadline. Forget it. I go, so let me get this straight. You could have helped me. It would have cost you absolutely nothing to have helped me. But not only did you choose not to help me, which would mean ignore the email, delete the email, not pay attention to the email, answer too late to the email, or call me directly and tell me, I'm not going to help you with this. You're late. Deal with it. You actually tell them, where a kind word would have got me a lot further, you tell them to disregard it because I'm crazy. You walked all the way across this figurative room. You do realize that if you're 30, there is a next time. You think that guy's going to show up from Phoenix next year when he's 50 fucking 5? Loyalty is a strange thing. Sadly, in life, I discover more often than not, this is how loyalty is repaid. And of course, I get no sympathy. People say, well, you opened the door for this. It was you who missed the fucking deadline. Yeah, and? You know, on planet Eugene, I learned something pretty easily and quickly. Anything is possible. Anything. And I say this as prelude to explain to you my history with Donald J. Trump. As a New Yorker, I've known about this guy for a long time. He was my touchstone in a lot of ways. Because at one point in the 80s, I was sitting around, I was like, Donald Trump's belief in Donald Trump is absolutely airtight because it can't afford to be anything else. If Donald Trump has a vision for the future, Donald Trump enacts that vision, actualizes that vision by simply making it happen. Yes, he was a loudmouth. Yes, all that stuff. He had not added racist, rapist, sexist to that list, though it remains philosophically to be seen. Can you be an enlightened? Can you be a rapist and not be a sexist? If you rape men, are you still a sexist? I don't know. It's a philosophical question for another day. Because at the very least, East Coast way of doing things was all about patronage. And cash is only provides a modicum of explanation. I help you, you help me. Because they will never help us. Will never help us. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. I could easily spend an hour talking about the vicissitudes of loyalty. I missed the deadline. Doesn't fucking make a difference. You know how rich guys work? Let me explain something to you. I'm sorry. I'm on fire. I'm not going to make this the whole show. We'll get to MMA in a second. If you write a fraction, typically most people, depending on where you are, you'll write a fraction with a bar here, right? 1 bar 2, half, right? Got that? Have you ever seen the bar written as a virgule? So 1/2 as a fraction. Now, if you're a math person, feel free to tweet and tell me it's common. When I took the test to get into my high school, it was a specialized high school in New York called Stuyvesant. I had never seen fractions written with a virgule. Didn't know what to do. Consequently, missed passing the test by 3 points, 4 points. Under a Sorrell administration, I should have gone, oh, well, fuck you, go to a fucking shitty school. You know, my parents were not wealthy at all, but understood the value, East Coast value of patronage. You know what they did? They contacted the Manhattan Borough president, Percy Sutton, and said, look, the kid was within 3 fucking points. You gotta let him in. You gotta. Percy Sutton made a call, contacted Murray Kahn. Murray Kahn vouchsafed me, and he goes, listen, the deal is this. If in the first 6 months, the first semester, you don't have every one of your grades is not over 90, you're out. Got it. A+ all the way, baby. Stuyvesant grad here. What I'm saying is you help out your own. And you don't help them out, they're not your own. And I can understand that. That's all I got to say. That's it. That's it. I'm off this topic. Anyway, UFC Fight Night 98, where grown men go to die, baby. You know what? Somebody already put it up on Twitter. You know what this is? This is my tote sheet. Not only is it my tote sheet, it's my tote sheet from Care Don't Care Preview, which this ties into directly, which is me v. Kid Nate and our picks. Kid Nate was blown the fuck up. Blown the fuck, like gaga-gaga-boosh. Gaga-gaga-boosh. You guys don't think I'm paying attention? I'm paying attention on a level, you know, you guys got your boards up here. Maybe you got a board here and a board here. And some of you are finely tuned to the board here, the board here, and the board here. Tri-level chess all the way. So let's just start going through it. Once, and more importantly, the overweening uber strategy of the WME overlords bears fruit. It bears fucking fruit. Because how did you, it's just basic drug dealing. Basic drug dealing. How did you feel after 3 weeks of not substantial fights? What I watched UFC Fight Night 98 and did not mind the endless Burger King commercials with Geico commercials. Did not mind the continued attempts to sexify Honda Housey. Sorry. Who's that cat stranger who's like, you leave my angel baby alone? And I understand where he's coming from. I feel it. When I read people unloading on Ronda like they have been, I'm like, get the fuck up. It's like, I can unload on Ronda, but you cannot. Because my unloading is nuanced. And the fact that now they're talking about shuffling her off to Buffalo and some sort of retirement scenario to do movies. Ask KNUCKLE how that movie routine is going. Fighting is marketing for the movies. Marketing for the movies. Oh, it's not? Oh, so when was the last time you went to a Gina Carano movie? Yeah, she was in that great movie. It's advertising. Until the big deal in Hollywood, the big deal in public imagery, the big deal in the land of Q ratings is escape velocity. You know who has escape velocity? Well, people that you dream about who you don't know. I bet many of you have had Tom Cruise dreams. I haven't. Unless he's playing Tupac Shakur in the biopic Where My Bitch Is At. I don't really think too often about Tom Cruise. But I've already spent a lot of time in this show just now talking about Tom Cruise. And I haven't spent them talking about, say, Tony LoBianco. Speaking of which, Tommy, T-Man, I can't talk about it without getting choked up. But thank you for the letter, my friend. Thank you for the letter, brother. I will. We'll take the old lady out. We'll get something to eat. Thank you. Figure out. You got whatever. The rest of you figure it out what you want. But I want to have a special section for Tommy because that was fucking balls out. That was manly. Thank you. And a bill where I'm looking at, you don't need to know my personal finances, but it was welcome. This is a tough month for me. 30 days is a tough month. It helps, brother. This is the land of Q ratings. It is the land of Q ratings, and so you can't tell me, like any good drug dealer, I'm holding. Hey man, you got me? Anybody got it? Or you got no? 3 weeks of starvation, contemplating, if you're smart, this level of the chessboard, and then boom. Under normal circumstances, UFC Fight Night 98 would have been like, that's kind of cool. Maybe I was gonna meet the guys, but maybe ever. Now, 8 out of 10 people I know who are into the fight game were like, man, we gotta fight. Hey, where you gonna go watch it was suddenly, it's the same drug, but suddenly it tastes sweeter. It tastes sweeter. And something else you'll notice that they've done. You ever rent a vehicle like from U-Haul or Hertz or somebody like that, and you try to jam it up on the freeway, get up over 100, you can't, no matter. And you look at the pedal, it's down to the floor, and you realize, yeah, they put a governor on it. They put a governor on so you can't, no matter how hard you press it to the floor, can't exceed a certain speed limit. Well, they did that to the bald one. You could almost feel it. One of you texted me, said, "Can you feel it? Can you feel it?" and you know why he's willing to take it? Because he's probably got a lock-in clause. I know D-Man will correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I'm suspecting he's got a lock-in clause. In other words, yeah, he stands to make $400 million, but he's still gotta stick around to ensure a seamless transition, as well as a significant appreciation of company value and worth. I'm sure that's what the Goldman Sachs guys would say. Why you dressed like this, Eugene? Well, it was a video, and Oxbow band photos, take 2. We were up on the 5th story of an old San Francisco brewery that had big holes in it with 40-foot drops if you had one moment of inattention. So the photos are great, and on a roof that was so white that I'm convinced tomorrow I will be snowblind. And if you haven't been snowblind, you got something else coming. You have that sensation. I'm opening my eyes to the world, and it's nothing. It's like all white, and then you have that momentary sense of panic, and you blink and you blink and you blink, and then your vision finally goes back. Oh my God, Jesus. So it is masterful. See, because it is, and I have to say this: any of you out there doing that pimpy talk of, oh well, if Hillary wins, it's her job to heal the nation. This is not if I did it, and I'm fairly certain that Hillary has got better things to do than to listen to Knuckle Up. But with God as my witness, if you go into this White House with that idea, you're fucking nuts. Heal the nation, my asshole. Heal it, nothing. Obama spent the first year before trying to heal the nation and appeal and appease his opponents, and he got reamed with the midterms. Do not do this. Do not do this. If you win it, claim mandate like George W. and empty the fucking halls of justice. Right, get rid of Comey. It's the last 5 minutes of the Godfather writ large. And up to and including a personal handler for Bill. Oh, he's old. Not old enough. If the Donald wins, if you think for a second, if you're a Donald fan and you believe for a second that establishment Republicans are not doing everything they can do to unseat, how many guys ran for the office, got the office, and then before the term was up, well, let's talk about Nixon. Making the presidency is no guarantee that you'll serve the presidency. Or in a darker turn, let's talk about Kennedy. Becoming president is no fucking guarantee. And do you honestly, in your heart of hearts, if you're a Trump fan and you're listening, Donald Cerrone, Tim Kennedy, do you really believe that John McCain, like that scene where Michael Corleone is talking to Kay, Don't you know I will do everything in my power to keep you from taking my children from me? Do you think they are going to? He was a spear point to get them back into the White House, but he's not their guy. And if he doesn't do a last fight, night of Hitlerian night of the long knives after he takes over the presidency and so-called drain the swamp of Republican establishment Republicans, he's fucking crazy. Because if you don't get those guys are going to get you. And hello, President Pence. Believe it. As I sit here now, believe it. You better move the White House to Trump Towers on Fifth Avenue because you're not safe anywhere else. And I'm not talking about from lefties who couldn't park a bicycle straight. I'm talking about your own party. You've made significant enemies. Cruzes, Bushes, who still see you as a continued speed bump to their future aspirations, as well as the aspirations of their corporate overlords, specifically the Koch brothers, specifically, just go down the list. Peter Thiel. Well, Peter Thiel's a Trump guy. You know what I mean? Billionaires. Adelson is coming across. He says he's a Trump guy. I don't know. He's got a lot of money guys on his side, but that's two guys against a teeming horde? No. So it's interesting to me how WME has come in and they've made these adjustments. And these adjustments are fucking huge. Put the same kind of eggs, they're going to get the same kind of cake. Yeah, you know what? We're going to use different types of eggs. So long, Joe Silva. Sean Shelby says, hey, Sean, hey, you know, do not. I interviewed, now I can reveal it. I kind of touched on it a little bit. I interviewed Benny El Dariush for a piece I've got coming up in Aussie. And he's like, listen, you know, it's sort of upsetting that they're going to get rid of 15%. These are people I know and work with. And then there's that nice silent pause as Dariush kind of considers, you know what? I guarantee you, Dariush, if you lose a fight, those same guys that you're feeling sorry for, Dave Scholler, they're not sitting in that big oak office in Vegas going, oh, man, it's terrible what happened to Benny L. Man, he lost, and I was got to go back to Anaheim, and no. There's no feeling sorry. There's no pity in the UFC. And on that note, let's go down the card. I appreciate, excuse me, I appreciate you guys texting me about the fights that were don't cares and that should be cares. But because I've already blabbed 23 minutes about personal vendettas and Hitlerian Night of the Long Knives, I don't have time to talk about those. So I'm going to try to go into the other stuff now, and then double back at the end. But let's start with UFC Fight Night 98, which I'm sure all of you saw. Hold on, let me make it a little bigger. Okay, I didn't care about Chris Avila and Enrique Barzola. First of all, let me say right now that like while Mexico City seems to be a wonderful city and full of color, I really don't want him to have any more fights there. I just don't, you know. It introduces too much of a fucking X factor in terms of the 10,000 feet. You don't have any fights at Machu Picchu either. You don't have any fights in the Andes either. It just introduces way too much of a fundamental element of confusion vis-a-vis cardio. Sorry. And I didn't care about Marco Polo Reyes and Jason Novelli. And these were two fights that went the whole thing, and you're like probably wondering why the fuck am I watching this? But I did go for Smiling Sam Alvey. And now let me cross-reference, go to the mailbag, because some of you were texting me during the fight, go about Smiling Sam. Here we go. What do you say about Smiling Sam? With middleweight, let's see, Smiling Sam. With Smiling Sam Alvey with middleweight belt aspirations, does this move him to Lost Battalion from Phantom Toll Booth? Yes. Yes. But I gotta say about Smiling Sam Alvey, if I say to you right now, I said, come 2016, when I'm the IBJJF fucking no-gi gold medalist and gi gold medalist, then we can talk. 2017, that's me. Does that make me Lost Battalion? It seems to indicate that I don't know where I am exactly. Or it could be Mystic Mac Magic. Mystic Mac Magic very clearly sees me. It's not so much that I'm lying, but I'm saying stuff that may not come true. It's very different from that kind of Junior Dos Santos. Yeah, when we rematch, and then everybody around him just kind of looks to the side. In other words, if I say when I'm the 2017 gold medalist, you think fucking Eugene could be full of shit, but he might do it. When Junior Dos Santos says when we rematch, nobody's saying we might do that except him. So when Smiling Sam says that he's got belt aspirations, what side do you fall on? If Smiling Sam Alvey says he's got belt aspirations, I find myself going, anything could happen. No, I don't. No, I don't. I'm just for fun of you. Anything could happen, but that, buddy, in middleweight, are you fucking kidding? You're Lost Battalionized. You're Lost Battalionized because it's clear. You could be saying stuff that you just want to have happen, but it's clear that you've got a certain level of belief in it. And what is that conjo gear, that sports gear user, when guts is not enough? Sometimes I try to explain this to guys who want to be tough guys. Somebody ran a poll, which I copied on my page. Eugene Robinson versus Henry Rollins. It's like I didn't see one person there pick for Rollins. And I go, that's good. I said to some guy, you got no chance. And the guy got sort of offended because he thought I was making a statement on his manhood. I realize that now, having fought professionals. Like when I going against Cain Velasquez, I realize that. I, however, have a fucking hit list. At such time as I become a black belt and get good enough, just like those Clint Eastwood movies, I got a list of guys who paid into a bank account that I want to pay them out of. It may have taken 20 years, but I'm coming back on you. So when Smiling Sam says he's got middleweight belt aspirations, yo, bro, you can't talk your way. I can't talk my way into a black belt gold medal champion because it's so far out of the realm of possibility that only a crazy person would say it. And if you're crazy, the good chance is that you're crazy in the mist alone. So yes, that moves him from the Phantom Toll Booth to the fucking Lost Battalion. Not even lost in the supermarket, because I don't know too many people who like Smiling Sam Alvey for anything other than Smiling Sam Alvey, by which I mean the name. The win, he won credibly. Fine. Now, Benio, I was gripping. I was gripping like I've never gripped for a fight. You know why? You know why I was gripping? Because I finished a whole article on Benio on Friday. And I wrote it with the assumption that he would win it. And if he didn't win it, I would have to take a whole 1,200-word piece and core the ass out of it to fix it. So I was blinded by the light, but not so blinded that I didn't pick him against, 19-2 Magomedov, who Kid Nate picked. You can see my scribbly handwriting. Kid Nate, and I like Magomedov, but I knew he wouldn't do it. And I could tell from Benio was in Mammoth and then got to Mexico early. I could tell he was taking it seriously. And by the time those guys got to the end of the fight, you didn't know that they fought 3 rounds. And that's some serious freaking seriousness. And he was much more cautious. I talked about him in the article being he was kind of wild man. And then Danny Acosta came in from Sirius XM Radio and said, nah, buddy, this man's a chess player. And then I remember, oh, yeah, he's actually an accountant, was an accountant in real life, heading toward getting his degree in accounting. So it was nice to see Benio. It doesn't set Magomedov back too much, but it does advance Benio in a healthy way. In a healthy way. He's on track. And that, you know what, fundamentally, I finally discovered that that's the thing that you can say in MMA that is the most laudatory. For example, if I say about Benio, he's on track, you know exactly, instinctively, intuitively what I mean when I say he is on track. When I say Johnny Boney Joni, that guy is off track, you know exactly what I mean. Street overlord, mini marts, strip clubs, allegedly, and other things. The things I'm hearing. Man, I so much want this to be a world where I could be excited about Johnny Boney Joni. But you know what? His worst enemy was time off. Which is when Mystic Mac says he's going to take a year off to have a wife, try to have a kid with his wife, and to be with the family. You know what? I dig it, but it makes me nervous because even by all indications, he seems to be a pretty faithful guy. They say, you know what they say that's interesting? I thought it was super compelling. Shorter men are more faithful. I have friends who are plenty short. Absolutely not true. Don't know what that means. You know, I get a good vibe from it. There's some fighters, you see their relationships, you know, you get a, I don't want to mention any, well, I can mention the names of the good ones. I see Gil and Kerry, Gil Melendez, Kerry Taylor, solid. Never get anything other than a solid vibe from them. Always, like always, always. Other fighters, hey, I love my wife, says Matt Hughes. And then the smoky looks in the hotel room at the fight. You remember that story I told when those guys were clowning him? Every time they walked by his hotel room, he was leaning back in his chair watching TV with his door open because of the heat. And he was shirtless, and he'd hear voices in the hallway, and he looked at the hallway, the smoky looks. And they were like, just start walking back and forth, clowning him. And then I just pick up a magazine, and Matt Hughes is there sitting on his tractor, the happy family man and his wife. Oh, don't sell me that crap. You know, don't sell me that crap. Listen, I hang out with porn star Mr. Marcus, and he's one of the ones who kind of changed my mind about things. You know, before that, I'd be sort of autistic about it's hard to believe. Woman comes back to my place. I go, oh, we're just going to have a friendly night. Time's in bed with me. We're just watching TV. Friends. Like, this is what friends do. She goes, it's kind of hot. I think I'll take my shirt off. It is kind of hot. Takes her shirt off. You know. And next thing I know, I feel people touching my genitals. And I go, hey, wait a minute. This is what friends do? She had to like, I just wasn't getting the subtleties. And Mr. Marcus is the one who changed it. He goes, nah. Everybody says they're one way, but there's like, it was like a blue velvet world where there's this world and there's this world. And in this world, people are grabbing you in the bathroom and doing all kinds of shit. They're taking your penis from their mouth and looking at you in earnestness and saying, you know, I love my husband. Yeah. What better way to show it? I'm not shaming these people, but I'm saying we are the animals that we are. This ties into Matt Hughes. I don't know. What I'm saying is, Mystic Mac wants to take off time to be with his wife and have a kid and enjoy the time that they used to. Fucking A. I understand that. Being a guy in a band on tour, you know, even if you go on tour with your wife, coming back home, you just gotta want to hang and chill for a bit. Imagine your life is that way always. Maybe it's perfectly reasonable that he wants to relax if that's what he really means. In other words, Mystic Mac could still be on track even if he takes a year off. GSP, his year off put him off track. He was not articulate about why he was doing what he was doing. We still don't know why he did what he did, and we don't know if he knows why he did what he did. Is it money? Is it negotiation? Was the PED issue? What was going on? We don't know. Him trying to come back, what's that about? We have no idea. Off track. Johnny Boney Joni, off track. You know exactly what I mean. So when I tell you Benny L is on track, good for him. Does that mean that consequently that Magomedov is off track? Doesn't mean that. Doesn't mean that at all. Magomedov is with 19-3 or whatever it is. He's up there in those numbers. He's solid. He could have afforded this loss. Daniel couldn't have. Glad he won. Glad I didn't have to change my piece. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Look at this. Lamas, who's got the killer Mystic Mac impression, is my pick over here. And Kid Nate picked Charles Oliveira. Now, Charles Oliveira was a guy who moved. Somebody texted me in the mailbag about Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira moved from, and I'm sorry, I'm hoarse. I did a guest spot on a French band's song and video last night, so I was screaming, as well as screaming from rage about certain other acts of disloyalty. And that is why I'm hoarse. But Lamas, Charles Oliveira, if you remember, was initially a don't care who moved to care. Good. But I've gotten a shaky feeling from him. And realistically speaking, I love grappling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a defensive martial art. But if you've watched enough grappling competitions, it really is fate. You know what? There are enough turns. Like, for example, if you go to ADCC, Abu Dhabi Combat Competition, and you look on any given day, man, it could go. And sometimes you get a guy who steps in and dominates. But how are you going to the wind blows one way, the guy's cold this way, his muscle pulls that way, he falls this way. Bada bing, bada bing. Let me say before I go on right now, out of the things I do, this has probably got the greater reach of any. I need some yellow Alaskan cedar. Alaskan yellow cedar. Apparently, it's a super fucking popular wood right now. It's impossible to find for a reasonable or cheap price. If you are anywhere in the Western states, Washington, Oregon, northern California, or any place else, if you have a friend who has a lumber yard or a mill, I need a shitload of yellow Alaskan cedar. I need it. I need it. If I could have it for free, that would be best. I really, really fucking need it. That's it. Think about who you know. You might know somebody who's got connections to a lumber yard or to a lumber mill. But I need it. I will drive up to Oregon or Washington State to get it, providing you're not going to subsequently shoot me in the head and or try to chain me around the neck in your storage locker. Anticipating that, you know, I will be heavily armed when I show up with my truck to get the lumber. So that was a commercial. That was a commercial aside. So Oliveira, I love watching his grappling, but you got to understand in ways that are sort of fundamentally different than stand up. It's a crapshoot when you got top flight. You know, it depends on what you're remembering that day. You know, you roll to a turtle. Is your arm down, or you forget to put your arm down? The guy gets a hook in, bing, bada bing, and then you're choked out. Charles Oliveira is not so much a gift as he is a grappler. And if that's going to be 70, 80, 60, 90% of your game, then you're gonna run the risk of running the table and coming up short in one of those draws at some point. So that's why Oliveira has always seemed like a gift to me. For those of you who do not know, gift, G-I-C-T, guys I can't trust. Not to be confused with a gicta, guys I can't trust anymore. These are guys who will lose when you want them to win and who will win when you want them to lose. These are guys that will get you broke and alone if you're not careful. And the gicta, at least you never have to think about them again. But Oliveira is not so much a gict, a guy I can't trust, as he is a grappler. And that's his game, and you got to know he's going to come up short like he did against Lamas. He almost had him. But you know what? If I'm rolling with a guy and I'm just kind of savaging him, you know, and I'm learning from Sergio Garcia, I'm learning heavy, so heavy pressure, heavy top pressure, smothering. And if I'm on the bottom, I'm quickstanding you, holding on to everything. You're just carrying you're just miserable. You're miserable. And I see a guy, I see his eyes, like he's like, fuck, how much longer do I? And I see his eyes start to trail over to where the clock is. And I'll just grind his head the other way. Don't be looking at the clock. There was no way when you heard that 10-second clapper that Lamas was going to tap out to that choke that Oliveira said. There's no way. There's no way, because instinctively he goes, I can hold my breath for 10 seconds. I can't be one of those guys who taps with a second left because it fucking hurts. I can't go back to my gym being that guy. And then the best part about choking out Charles Oliveira is what he, like Nick Diaz did. Like the time in the press conference, Nick Diaz, I like it known that I beat him standing up. That was supposed to be his game. He's talking about KJ Noons. And then it was actually Danny Acosta was, I'd like it known that I could beat him in hopscotch. I could beat him in jacks, checkers, parcheesi, or pai gow. Anything you got, I could beat him in. It was really satisfying for me to see Lamas win. At the very least reason of which I could go now on Kid Nate when we talk about if I did it later on in the week, or when we talk about the Conor McGee fucking Eddie Alvarez matchup, the first New York thing coming up next week. This is going to be a big week for not only the election, if I did it, but the Care Don't Care preview, I could just go rub the face in it. Face. Oh, it's going to be so nice. So, Diego Sanchez against Marcin Held. I had mixed feelings because Marcin Held, whose name I'm terribly mispronouncing, is Polish. He's from Tychy. That's how you pronounce it. And he's, I'm picking the Polish fight. The old lady's Polish. I'm picking the Polish fights. That's the way it works. But in this instant, I had to go. If I have to look with that equation, I'm gonna always put crazy over Polish, even though I would take Polish over Canadian, because I've been to Poland and I know that people who leave very frequently have to be compelled to come back. They would choose to be other places. Oh, it's not just Polish. The Polish culture is great, but that's not what's happening in Poland now. We should do a piece on countries that create refugees of their own people because of financial, intellectual reasons. Read my piece in ASEAN on Jan Sova, the leading Polish academic, who goes, oh yeah, Poland will cease being a country by the year 2020. Why? Because nobody wants to be here. Why? Because you can't fucking live and be here unless you are a mafioso. He didn't really say that because he wanted to live to talk another day, but that's what he inferred. So Diego and Held, it's like, I got the sense that Held is training. Look, I've got talked to guys who train with Henry Cejudo. And you know what they've said? He's an asshole. What do you mean he's an asshole? He came, he brutalized us. He didn't say anything to teach us anything, and then he left. And I was like, you gotta realize that most guys that you meet, and everybody's been sending me pics of Greg Hardy, and I got it. And there's something to be said about pro athletes, but most guys you meet who are super pro athletes, like super pro athletes, they have a couple of things in common. They're really fucking focused like crazy. Like, I played rugby against Milt McCall, who used to play for the San Francisco 49ers. I think he's now a doctor. Season would play rugby, and I played rugby with that guy. He almost knocked out every single one of my fucking teeth, and I got nice, strong teeth. He was focused, directed, and much more physically in tune, like Fields a Nephilim guy, like at 6'4", 245 pounds, moved like a ballet dancer. You don't have anything to bring to that party. So it's not like I'm not taking Greg Hardy seriously, but I'm not taking Greg Hardy seriously for reasons for other reasons than people might not take Greg Hardy. I'm not taking Greg Hardy seriously because of his timeline. He's hoping to do this shit to give the finger to the NFL and say, look, yeah, fuck your suspension. I'll do what I want. I can make it here. But if you don't think he's hoping to be playing in 2017, you're wrong. He's not switching careers. He's just spending an off season. Maybe he gets a nice big payday. I don't know. But these guys are not to be trifled with. And if you're training with guys that you know that essentially you're not going to do a Henry Cejudo, or say judo, as I like to say. You're not going to come in and brutalize them, not talk to anybody, not teach anything, not trade information, and then leave. Third category that I've noticed about professional fighters, they're focused, agile, and they're incredibly self-directed, which is a nice way to say selfish. They do not give a fuck. It's a game. It's about the game. I know guys who played pro ball as they were getting hurt. You know, first string guy getting hurt, second string guy fucking mocking him as they're taking him on the stretcher on the same team. Diego fights like that. Marcin Held fights like a guy who trains hard, but trains hard with guys he knows and likes. You don't want to be the guy that, you know, gets called out on Reddit that you don't even read, who starts to talk about you being a bully, you know, BJJ bully, and you're like savaging guys and fish hooking them and, you know, just generally making them feel terrible. You don't want to be that guy. But after a certain point, the jokes stop. Diego fights that way. Sanchez. And he won. So now if you look at the little tote sheet, you'll see Eugene. It's like correct. And then Kid Nate. He got Sam Alvey right, but then 1, 2, 3 in a row. Down for the count and wrong. And now the big fight. You go, well, Eugene, what the Kid Nate will say, we'll fuck about those little fights. I called the big one, and we all know how it ended. Kid Nate did say Ferguson, but if you look at my little note, he says Ferguson by KO. That didn't happen. He fundamentally misunderstood what he was watching. And somebody said it best, let's go to the mailbag for your comment. Man, this shit is like beautifully seamless, right? Is it like beautifully seamless? Like I'm going from the mailbag to the tote sheet, from the tote sheet to the mailbag, and then I remember it all. It's really phenomenal. And this guy says, not him, and I can actually keep it straight. He says, and we're talking specifically about RDA. Oh no, I'm sorry. It was in my Twitter feed. There's some of you who contacted me through Twitter as well. He says, here we go, conspiracy theory from one of my spies. And this other guy says, RDA didn't look that bad, I don't think. Ferguson just looked exceptional. And he goes, McGregor, Alvarez, Khabib, I don't think it matters. Tony Ferguson is going to get that belt before long. And I thank you, Luke. Oh, L-Man. I don't know that people want their names mentioned. Thank you, L-Man. But the reality of it is he's right. I'm not a Ferguson hater. I picked RDA because of emotional reasons. And RDA was great. I knew he would do what he did. He just, like the guy, like L-Man suggests, just didn't do enough of it. Did not do enough of it. But I was concerned about him for other reasons, because I think that there's a tendency of Brazilian fighters to do the fold. And after he ran into some Ferguson adversity on the second round, you could see him kind of shutting down. And then once he made it to the end of that round, I was like, Borja Moy, thank God because he got his head back and he came in the third round. But at that point, it was just enough to, you know, and I'm sorry, I was driven to distraction. Brian Stan's nut jumpery was fucking unremitting. He didn't commentate on anything. I remember when he's talking, and RDA hits Ferguson and just spins his head, knocks his head back like a fucking marionette. And there's a silence and a pause, and Stan comes in with, Ferguson just slips things so wonderfully. Even when he gets caught, that guy can take a punch. You're in the bag, man. I'm surprised I could hear you over your voice rose above the murmur from having your lips surgically attached to his scrotum. Are you fucking kidding me? You call yourself a commentator? I've done a better job. Clearly, though I'm voting for Hillary, I've done a better job with my political commentary on this show than you did with that whole fight. It was embarrassing. You embarrassed yourself and you embarrassed the Shaolin Temple. I don't know what to tell you. I will tell you, like the disloyal Sorrell says, go home and think about your life. Go home and think about your life. That wasn't commentating. That was in the baggery. He's like, you try it. You know what? Nobody's asked me. Nobody's given me some big paycheck to do it, but I got to tell you, that was not good. It was not a good look. It was not an exciting look. It was not anything. RDA lost, yes. He didn't lose by KO, so Kid Nate is not wrong in that count. I don't mind. It was a hell of a fight. Guys fought their heart out. And more, cherry on the top, WME is figuring out the pacing. I know they're figuring out the pacing because when I was a kid, movies were events that you could look forward to on a month timeline. As I got to be older and tried to decide what I want to do for a living, I figured out that I didn't like daily news because nothing was that important to me. I liked magazines. It was more contemplative. I had a monthly cycle. We developed, 2 weeks of intense work, one week of buildup, and 1 week of basking in the glow of an issue that was done. But with the fucking internet, everything has become a daily newspaper. Bellator 163. It happened. I was afraid of it happening, but it happened. I was hoping that that the illusion of Bellatorian viability would be maintained longer, and that the apostate Mr. Wonderful would, while I like him a lot and usually pick him, I really liked Liam McGreary, and so I wanted them to somehow it not be a total schooling, which is what it was. So Liam will of course never get seduced away by the bald one, even though he's got the look and he's got the thing going. He never gets seduced away by the bald one. And fundamentally, Phil Davis is not going to be asked back. So you got the situation in Bellator where they're just waiting for somebody else to get disgruntled and leave. And like I said before, and I've been saying 3 weeks in a row, if you know anybody or if you are anybody who's involved in making their living inside that cage, patience is a virtue. There's nothing here to hurt you. It's a hip hop song. Quote the artist. Anyway, so you should hang, but the fact that Liam he's done, kind of, in my mind. Who's going to fight? Right? And by proxy, in a weird way, the cockroach Ortiz lives on. He looked at Chael Sonnen's eyes and he saw fear. By day, it was so many years ago. If Tito loses to Chael Sonnen, it does not make a fucking bit of difference. You think people building statues like Statue of Liberty anymore? No. There's not even any discussion about whether it's a good statue or not. It's an institution. He's an institution. Tito Ortiz is a Statue of Liberty. He doesn't need to win. Doesn't feel as bad as sometimes on the periphery watching Diego Sanchez fight. So that's it. That's the show. I did the airing of grievances. I discussed Nazis, outre sexual things. Kind of gave you up to date as to why I'm hoarse. And I've been chatting with Josh Barnett, for those of you who are interested in high-powered 1960s muscle cars. That's what that's about. Josh and I are working on a race for pink slips, baby. But I discovered I'm looking for a new clutch, and I'm looking for this clutch. And at first, I had the nylon plates, then I had the steel plates, and they were making too much noise. And then the guy said, "Look, I hate the noise. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to get you some." And then I look on the page, and I go, "Josh Barnett, he's actually." I didn't realize he was making his money working on high-end automobiles. Maybe I should rethink my race challenge to him for our cars. But I got to win. He's got like a 350. I got a 550. I got to beat him, right? Eugene on a bicycle. That's what that's called. But anyway, I wrote him, and he wrote back, and he helped out. So maybe we'll have him come up in another show. We could talk about him wanting to beat Steve Albini to death. So anyway, that is the show. That is Knuckle Up number 290. I'm going to save all the rest of it for the Care Don't Care preview coming up this next week. If I did it, will probably be taken up solely and completely by election news. If you are in Northern California, I'm going to do a live Tuesday for like 6 to 12 hours or something ridiculous like that. I'm going to be in the Aussie offices. We're going to do a live election coverage. And if you've got something coherent to say about it, text me or send me a tweet, and we can have you come up in the office and talk about it. So we have somebody in DC. We've got somebody like in Mumbai, somebody in Paris. We got somebody in Nevada. We got somebody in Atlanta, Georgia, DC. Did I say DC already? New York. So we're doing like a real thing. It'll be a thing. And we planned it 6 days ago. How do you like that? So it should be very fun. Anyway, that is the show. I got to leave and go to Tango. I'm dressed up for the music video, or the photos that we took, the Oxbow. PR photos. We have new photos for the first time in 10 years now. So Nico is more bald. I'm more gray. Greg is thin, and Dan looks the same, except he's sporting a Pancho Villa mustache. So for those of you who are Oxbow fans who care or interested, that's why I'm dressed this way on a Sunday. Anyway, that's it. We're done. We'll see you soon. Give us a double thumbs up. At Eugene S. Robinson. It's a closed party because I want to know who's coming through the door. Sorry. Go to Donald Trump. He just lets anybody in. That's how you get 1 million fans. I don't care about that. I got a personal relationship, me and you. So anyway, that's it. We'll see you soon. Look what you made me do!